Welcome to another live patching session. This is always Giovanni here at FrapTools, and today I have 3 more techniques to improvise patch from scratch, and the result is what you just heard. So I have no idea of what I may do over the next 20 minutes or so. So today's random picks are the integrator number 1, technique focused on the BRENSO, the Falistri clock manipulation, which is quite a complex technique by itself, which we recently uploaded to our archive, and the pulse shaper, which is in contrast fairly easy. So the pulse shaper basically uses the pulse wave generator on the pulse shaper on the BRENSO. So to hear the pulse shaper straight from without passing through the final output, so without passing through the wave folder, like this, just patch this output here to your mixing section and push the switch all the way to the right. In this way you will hear the clean sound of the pulse width modulation and the pulse shaper, which emphasizes the low, the high, and the low end with inverted phase. So for today's patch I will need 2 sequences, but at the same time I cannot use the 2 oscillators on the BRENSO independently because I have the integrator number 1 technique that forces me to use them in sync, like obeying to the same volt per octave. So I was playing with another sequence before, which sounds like this. Which is quite fast, and I think that perhaps I can slow it down a little bit. And then perhaps we will speed it up again. But the point is that with this sequence, I will clone this sequence over track 2, and I will make sure that all my settings are copied, like mainly clock and ratio. Now I will patch my track 2 to this oscillator here, which will be my voice. So I will use one of these 4 Falistri sections as my second voice, which I can patch here and try to tune. They were already quite close. And then I should have already, yes, some gates going on over track 1 and track 2. Otherwise I could have just used the set all button to populate all the stages. And I'm gonna use this to control my first Falistri, and this other one to control these other Falistri, which I will use just to control the amplitude of these 2. Now you might say, yes, there are 2 sequences exactly in unison, and this is the point of Falistri's clock manipulation, because now we are going to use our track 2 or 1, it doesn't matter. We're gonna set it to an external clock and its ratio to 1:1. Now you will see that it is stopped. Then we are gonna set the gate B track of our track 1 to output as many gates as we want. And then we will use them to feed this envelope here, which we will set to transient mode. Now, We need this to be set, we need its reset mode to on rest. You flip the Falistri, you check the switch, you set it on rest. In this way, the Falistri will retrigger the envelope only when the falling stage has ended, as opposed to the yellow one, which is also the default behavior, which reset to rise. So it means that if the falling stage is still going on, Falistri will invert, will flip it, and make it rise. So we need it to skip beats if we want. And the way to find out if your Falistri is set to one way or the other, is that when set on rest, the gate LED won't flash when set to transient. It should flash like this. If it doesn't flash, it means that it is set on rest. This is a tiny little detail that may help you find how your Falistri is set. If you set it to rise, it will just flash also in this way. Anyway, we're gonna patch our clock here and set our Falistri all the way down. And then we will use our end of rise as our clock input. Something like this. Or perhaps we can even use the end of fall. To add some I had quite a short gate, so it wasn't enough to make USTA move. So by increasing a little bit this falling stage, I now have the two sequences offset by one stage. And this is the main idea. By increasing yes, because I was using this clock to a faster time scale, so I'm gonna set it like this, and this is better, okay. And now I have my sequences going in and out of phase. So perhaps if I set this an octave higher, it won't harm, and it will be. You will hear that these are almost in unison, or at least in sync. This will delay the clock, and this will act as a clock divider, because Falistri will need to finish a cycle before retriggering the envelopes. So I had to cut the video here because I realized that I had my reverb cables wrongly patched to my group sends and returns. And now that we are up and running, let's see how it sounds like. And this will create this nice effect. But now we have to deal with the third technique, which was the integrator. Now let's see how it sounds like to modulate, to frequency modulate. As I suspected, this is a little bit too harsh. Okay, perhaps we found it. Ah, nice. And so the idea of the integrator was this. To add some moments of interference between the two oscillators. I was wondering what happens if I, instead of modulating the frequency, modulate the timbre. Hear the difference from this one to this one. Perhaps I need wider leaps to make my modulation more effective. For instance, I can transpose this one octave up. Hear that this is very crunchy. No, I can try to saturate my channel a little bit as well. And I was wondering if I could use the same envelope that I used to control the amplitude to control the waveform, the wave shaper, the pulse shaper. Ah, yes. Nice. This has a very, almost an 8-bit kind of sound. So I have this, which is very, very harsh. And this, which is more lush. And I think that I will keep this dry. And I can play with the reverb, and I can play with the raising stage. Transpose this to change the phase and the clock resolution. I kind of like it. I think that we can cap it here for today. I hope you had a good time. And if you want to share your take on these 3 random techniques, please feel free to do so by using the FrapIdeas hashtag. I hope you had fun, and I will see you next time.